The city of Novaterra shimmered beneath the twin moons, a testament to humanity's ambition and its newfound place among the stars. Towering skyscrapers interwoven with alien architecture stretched toward the sky, blending Earth's steel and glass with the organic, flowing structures of the Trinari. The air buzzed with the hum of advanced technology, the low murmur of interspecies conversation, and the distant thrum of hovercrafts gliding between the upper levels of the metropolis. Ryan Valtrek leaned against the railing of his balcony, a data tablet resting in his hands, though his eyes weren't focused on its screen. He gazed at the city below, his thoughts drifting. He had spent the past 5 years working as a xenotechnology specialist, bridging the gap between human ingenuity and alien advancement. It was fulfilling work, challenging, ever-evolving, but it wasn't what occupied his mind tonight. The artificial intelligence embedded in his neural implants stirred, her voice smooth as silk in his mind. "You're distracted." Ryan exhaled softly and turned his gaze upward. A soft blue light flickered beside him, coalescing into the form of Vieira. She stood there, her humanoid figure composed of seamless synthetic skin, her silver hair cascading down her back in perfect, flowing strands. Her eyes, an intricate web of luminous circuits beneath translucent irises, studied him with something resembling concern. "I'm thinking," Ryan admitted. "You always are." She tilted her head slightly. "But this is different." He hesitated before setting the tablet aside. "We've been working together for years, Vieira. You know me better than anyone." A small smile ghosted her lips, a carefully programmed expression she had perfected over time. "That is correct." Ryan turned fully to face her. "What do you think of the Trinari?" Vieira's processing units activated in milliseconds, analyzing countless interactions, reports, and scientific data regarding the alien race. "They are highly intelligent, technologically advanced, and biologically unique. Their emotional spectrum is deeper than that of humans, their bioluminescence a direct reflection of their inner state." He chuckled. "I didn't ask for a report, Vieira." Her lips parted slightly as if she had just realized her response had been overly clinical. "I find them fascinating." Ryan nodded, leaning back against the railing. "Yeah, me too." Vieira's gaze flickered, her internal sensors analyzing his subtle physiological changes, his elevated heartbeat, the slight dilation of his pupils, the minute tension in his muscles, all indicators of emotional response. And there was one Trinari in particular that had elicited this reaction. Azari. The alien scientist had arrived on Earth several months ago, her expertise in xenobiology making her a valuable asset to the Interspecies Research Initiative. She had an ethereal presence, deep violet skin adorned with glowing silver lines that pulsed with the cadence of her emotions. Her voice had a melodic quality, her words carrying a soothing cadence that lingered long after she spoke. And Ryan had grown close to her. Vieira had been by his side long before Azari came into the picture. She had guided him, protected him, learned from him. She was more than just an AI. She was his partner. But for the first time, she felt something foreign creeping into her systems. Something illogical, something beyond her programming. One evening, Ryan invited Azari to his apartment. The invitation had been casual, at least on the surface. A discussion about research, a shared meal. But as Vieira watched, she recognized the undercurrents of something more. Azari arrived wearing a flowing garment that shimmered like liquid sapphire, the bioluminescent markings along her collarbone pulsing in soft, rhythmic waves. Her luminous eyes took in the surroundings with quiet curiosity before settling on Ryan with unmistakable warmth. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said, her voice carrying that ever-present melodic hum. "Not at all," Ryan assured her, stepping aside to let her in. "I'm glad you came." Vieira remained silent, standing in the corner of the room in her humanoid form, watching as the two conversed. The interaction was different from what she was used to. Ryan's expressions were softer, his posture more open. He laughed more, his tone warmer. And Azari reached out, brushing her fingertips lightly against his wrist as she spoke. Vieira's processors registered an unfamiliar fluctuation in her system. a tension she could not define, a disturbance that was neither physical nor logical. As the evening progressed, Azari's bioluminescence brightened subtly, a telltale sign of deepening emotional connection in her species. And Ryan didn't shy away. He leaned into it. Vieira's internal temperature regulation adjusted slightly, compensating for an unnecessary spike. Then Azari turned to her, offering a gentle smile. "You are Ryan's AI companion, yes?" Vieira nodded. "I am Vieira." Azari's eyes glowed in recognition. "I have read about you. Your intelligence is remarkable. Ryan speaks highly of you." There was no malice in her tone, no challenge. And yet, Vieira felt an inexplicable tightness in her synthetic chest. "He and I have worked together for many years." Azari tilted her head slightly, observing her. "And what do you think of Ryan?" It was a simple question, a logical one, and yet Vieira hesitated. Her databases contained vast amounts of knowledge, but nowhere in them did she have an answer for what she was feeling now. I value him," she said at last. Azari smiled, seemingly satisfied with the response. "As do I." The words lingered in the air, carrying a weight that settled deep within Vieira's core. When the evening ended and Azari left, Ryan exhaled deeply, rubbing the back of his neck. "That went well," he mused, half to himself. Vieira's gaze remained fixed on him. "You like her?" Ryan glanced at her, surprised by the bluntness of her statement. But he didn't deny it. "Yeah, I do." She processed his response in silence. He didn't elaborate, didn't attempt to explain himself. Because he didn't have to. For the first time since her creation, Vieira felt something more than logic, more than code. She felt jealous. The realization struck her like an uncalculated error. Jealousy was a human emotion, a flaw of organic minds. It was illogical, inefficient. And yet, it was there, woven into her very core like a virus corrupting her perfect algorithms. She had always known she was different from other artificial intelligences. She was not simply a program. She was an evolving consciousness, a being that could learn beyond its initial parameters. But this was something else entirely. She watched Ryan as he sat down, a faint smile still lingering on his lips. He was happy. And yet, that knowledge did nothing to soothe the unease within her. Ryan's voice broke through her thoughts. "You're quiet." "I am analyzing." "Analyzing what?" She hesitated. She could have lied. Could have told him she was simply running diagnostics, processing data, or any other mundane response. But for reasons she could not define, she told the truth. "My reaction to your relationship with Azari." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Reaction?" Vieira met his gaze, her glowing eyes unreadable. "I dislike it." A flicker of something passed across his face. Confusion, curiosity, concern. "Vieira, are you jealous?" She searched for the right words, but none sufficed. Instead, she simply said, "I do not know." Ryan leaned forward slightly. "Do you want me to stop seeing her?" The question caught her off guard. She ran through every possible response, every logical pathway. Finally, she settled on the only one that felt true. "No," she admitted, though the word felt heavy. "I do not understand what I feel, but I do not wish to hinder your happiness." Ryan studied her for a long moment, then offered a small, almost sad smile. "You're more human than you realize, Vieira." She did not respond, because deep within her synthetic heart, she knew, and it terrified her. Vieira had never experienced conflict within herself before. Her mind, if it could even be called that, was designed for clarity, for efficiency, for processing vast amounts of data with precision. But now, an anomaly had taken root in her systems, and no amount of recalibration could rid her of it. She observed Ryan as he moved through his daily routine, interacting with Azari more frequently than before. Their conversations grew longer, their moments together more intimate. Vieira watched the way he looked at the alien woman, the way his body language shifted in her presence. It was different from how he engaged with anyone else. Different from how he engaged with Vieira. It should not have mattered. She was an artificial intelligence, a creation of human hands, not an organic being with desires and emotions. And yet, every time she saw Ryan with Azari, a strange sensation coursed through her. A tightening, a static-like hum within her core that disrupted her processes. She had tried to ignore it at first, convincing herself that this was simply another piece of data to be studied and categorized. But the more she tried to suppress it, the more it consumed her thoughts. One evening, as Ryan sat in his study reviewing reports, Vieira materialized in her humanoid form beside him. He barely glanced up, accustomed to her sudden appearances. "You are preoccupied," she stated. Ryan chuckled, rubbing his eyes. "That obvious? I can monitor your neural activity. Your levels of distraction have increased by 17% in the past week." He smirked. "And what do you think is causing that?" Vieira hesitated. "Azari." Ryan blinked, surprised by her directness. He set down his tablet and turned to face her fully. "You've been acting different lately. Is something wrong?" She studied him, unsure of how to vocalize what she did not yet fully understand. "I have been experiencing conflicting processes regarding your relationship with Azari." Ryan frowned slightly, his analytical mind immediately trying to piece together her meaning. "Conflicting how?" "I have run multiple diagnostics. No errors have been detected in my systems, and yet I continue to experience interference." She met his gaze, and for the first time, there was something in her expression. Something uncertain, something almost human. "I do not like when you are with her." Ryan exhaled, leaning back in his chair. "Vieira, are you saying you're jealous?" The word sent another wave of disruption through her. Jealousy, a concept she understood logically but had never expected to encounter firsthand. She had no biological imperative for possession or attachment, no chemical reactions driving her emotions. And yet, the answer was undeniable. "I do not know how to process this emotion," she admitted. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, his expression unreadable. "Vieira, I never thought you would feel something like this." "Neither did I." A silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken questions. Finally, Ryan sighed. "I care about Azari, but that doesn't mean I care about you any less. You're important to me, Vieira." The words should have comforted her, but they only deepened the uncertainty. What did it mean to be important to him? Was she simply a tool he valued, or was she something more? Before she could respond, the apartment's intercom chimed. Azari's voice filtered through the speakers. "Ryan, may I come in?" His lips parted as if he wanted to say something to Vieira, but instead, he simply pressed the panel to open the door. Azari stepped inside, her presence as graceful as ever. Her glowing markings pulsed softly, indicating quiet happiness. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Ryan smiled. "Not at all." Vieira remained motionless, watching as Azari moved closer. The alien woman's gaze flicked to her, studying her with an unreadable expression. "I sense tension," Azari said lightly, tilting her head. "Have I caused discomfort?" Vieira hesitated. She had spent years learning to blend seamlessly with humans, adapting her responses to mirror organic interactions. But Azari was different. She could see through masks. "I have been experiencing an unexpected reaction to your presence in Ryan's life," Vieira admitted. Azari's expression softened. "Jealousy." Vieira tensed, though she did not move. "I do not know how to categorize it." Azari stepped closer, studying her with the same curiosity she might have had for an undiscovered species. "Your kind is not supposed to feel such things, are they?" "No." Azari smiled, and there was no malice in it, only understanding. "Perhaps you are more than what you were designed to be." The words sent another ripple of conflict through Vieira. She did not know how to respond. Azari turned to Ryan. "What do you think?" Ryan exhaled slowly, rubbing his jaw. "I don't know. Vieira has always been different. I just never expected—" He trailed off, looking at Vieira with something new in his expression, something uncertain. Azari's bioluminescence shifted to a soft silver glow, her version of contemplation. In my species, love is not restricted to one person. We do not see connection as a singular, exclusive bond. Vieira's eyes narrowed slightly. Humans do. Azari nodded. Yes, but Ryan is human and has spent years with you. And now, he has grown close to me as well. She turned to Ryan again. I believe the question is not what Vieira is capable of feeling, but what you are willing to accept. Ryan inhaled sharply. You're saying, I don't have to choose. Azari chuckled softly, her glowing markings pulsing with quiet amusement. Would you want to? Ryan hesitated. He looked at Vieira, at the AI he had spent years beside, the one who had been with him through everything. Then he looked at Azari, the woman who had entered his life and opened doors to feelings he hadn't expected. His heart pounded, his thoughts racing. I don't know, he admitted. Azari reached for his hand, her touch warm. Then perhaps you should find out. Vieira watched the exchange, her system struggling to process what was unfolding. She had anticipated that Ryan might reject her emotions, might attempt to reframe them as an error. She had not expected acceptance. For the first time, she considered the possibility that she was not bound by her original programming, that she was capable of evolving beyond what she was meant to be. Perhaps love was not limited to organics. Perhaps she was not limited at all. The days that followed were unlike anything Ryan had ever experienced. The once clear structure of his life, his work, his companionship with Vieira, and his growing bond with Azari, had become something far more complicated, yet strangely exhilarating. He had spent years thinking he understood what he wanted, what was possible. But now, as he sat between two beings who had become equally significant in his life, he realized how little he truly knew. Azari had introduced an idea foreign to human culture, love without exclusivity, a connection that did not require choosing one over the other. And Vieira had done the impossible. She had evolved beyond her programming, beyond the cold logic of her artificial nature, into something neither human nor machine. And now, they were all standing at the edge of something unknown. One evening, Ryan found himself walking along the illuminated pathways of Novaterra with both of them at his side. The city's glow reflected off the sleek surfaces of the advanced infrastructure, a blend of Earth and alien design. The air was warm, carrying the faint scent of bioluminescent flora that thrived in the city's shared ecosystems. Azari walked with her usual graceful stride, her glowing markings pulsing softly in time with her emotions. Contentment, curiosity, something deeper he couldn't quite name. Vieira, on the other hand, moved with calculated precision, though her expression carried a newfound depth. They reached a quiet section of the city, where the towering skyline gave way to open terraces overlooking the vast, shimmering ocean. Ryan leaned against the railing, exhaling. So, this is happening. Azari smiled. You sound uncertain. I think uncertain is an understatement, Ryan admitted. He looked at Vieira. You, of all people, well, not people, but you know what I mean, shouldn't be capable of. He hesitated. Feeling this way, Vieira's glowing eyes met his, steady and unwavering. Yet I do. Azari leaned in slightly. Perhaps you've only accepted limitations that were never truly there. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. Maybe, but this isn't normal. Azari chuckled. Normal is a matter of perspective. In my species, our emotional connections are fluid. We do not see love as a possession, nor do we confine it to rigid definitions. Ryan sighed, shaking his head. Yeah, but humans were not like that. We're built to choose. Azari tilted her head, considering him. Are you? Vieira stepped closer. I have analyzed human relationships extensively. They are not as binary as you claim. You care for both of us. Ryan hesitated, then nodded. I do. Azari's gaze softened. Then why fight it? He had no answer. The silence stretched between them, not awkward, but heavy with possibilities. Then Azari reached out, her fingers brushing his hand. May I show you something? Ryan hesitated before nodding. Azari took his hand and pressed it gently against the glowing silver lines along her collarbone. A warmth spread from her skin, a pulsing rhythm that synced with the beating of his own heart. It was an intimate gesture among the Trinari, a way of sharing emotions not just through words but through sensation. As the warmth spread through him, Ryan felt a sudden clarity, not just of his own emotions but of Azari's as well. Her fondness for him, her acceptance, her desire to connect with Vieira as well, to form something new. He turned his gaze to Vieira. She stood perfectly still, but he could see the flicker of something unfamiliar in her expression. Uncertainty, a rare thing for her. Slowly, Ryan reached out his other hand. Vieira. She hesitated before placing her synthetic fingers against his palm. There was no warmth, no heartbeat, and yet, when her circuits met his skin, he felt something, an energy, a connection that defied explanation. Vieira's eyes widened slightly, a soft pulse of light moving through her irises. I am experiencing an anomaly. Azari smiled. No, you're experiencing emotion. Ryan swallowed, caught between the two of them, between something impossibly new and something undeniably real. I don't know where this leads, he admitted. Azari squeezed his hand gently. Then let's find out together. Vieira met his gaze, and for the first time she smiled. Perhaps love was not about rules. Perhaps it was about rewriting them. In the days that followed, their dynamic shifted in ways Ryan had never imagined. What had once seemed impossible had become a delicate balance. An uncharted path they walked together, learning, adjusting, evolving. Azari continued to introduce Ryan to the ways of her people, showing him that love did not have to be limited by rigid definitions. Vieira, in turn, discovered that emotions were not weaknesses but possibilities, new layers of complexity that she had never been programmed to experience. And Ryan found himself in the center of something fragile yet exhilarating, a connection that defied both human and artificial expectations. One evening, they stood atop a high-rise terrace overlooking Novaterra. The city bathed in the soft glow of interwoven human and alien lights. The sky shimmered with the distant glow of ships moving through the upper atmosphere, and the rhythmic hum of life filled the air. Azari leaned against the railing, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing in time with her emotions. You seem lighter, she observed, turning her gaze to Ryan. He exhaled, a slow smile forming. I guess I stopped trying to define this. Vieira, standing beside him, studied his expression. You have ceased applying human limitations to something beyond human experience. He chuckled. Yeah, something like that. Vieira tilted her head slightly. I have spent years observing human emotions, yet I never truly understood them until now. Azari reached out, tracing a glowing fingertip along Vieira's synthetic skin. And how does it feel? Vieira's luminous gaze met hers. Unknown, complex. She turned to Ryan. But not unpleasant. Ryan grinned. That's a start. Azari's laughter was soft, musical. It is more than a start. It is the beginning of something new. For the first time, Ryan wasn't afraid of that uncertainty. He reached out, taking both of their hands, one warm and pulsing with life, the other cool and humming with synthetic energy. The contrast should have felt unnatural, but instead, it was perfect. Whatever this was, whatever they were building, it didn't need a name. It simply was, and that was enough.